Hello, we are here to talk about leadership again. I'm so excited to welcome Ella Walford. Hello, Ella.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. You're the community manager at the Conduit, a great members club in London, but not just a members club. We talk about it a bit more. And yes, so we will talk about leadership, your role, and how it is to manage such a community today. But before talking about what you do today and how it is to lead a group in the community, in the community members of the Conduit, can you talk a bit more about your journey? What led you to this job today?
Yeah, of course. So again, thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited to delve into my role a little deeper with you. Um, so yeah, my name is Ella. I have worked in a few members clubs now, but with a sort of more extensive background in hospitality and events in general. I have worked at other members clubs in London, such as Home House and the 22, which also both double up as a hotel, which made for some really exciting experience throughout my career. I actually, back during both of those roles, did marketing. So I was less sort of client facing and a little bit more behind the scenes, but still sort of managing a community, but a little bit more online,
Mm.
you might say. I, however, just have like such a love of people and interactions and events. And I think, and I'm sure we'll get onto this later, but in the sort of increase of sort of digital elements and digital aspects of all businesses, I think for me, having a place and working for a business where so much of the emphasis is in real life and in person, and those
Yeah.
experiences and those connections are curated around a table or at a panel discussion, I think for me was just so much more fitting in terms of just what interests me and and what I believe in.
Yes, because for today, when we think of community management, we are mainly thinking of managing the Instagram account or Facebook
Totally.
group, but not
Yeah.
the actual community, which is the case here, that the physical face-to-face community. And I think that's
Exactly.
it's totally different vibe, isn't it?
Absolutely. Totally different vibe, a much more rewarding vibe because you get
Mm.
that interaction and that response, and you're really sort of involved in someone's journey as a member at that club. So, yeah, it's much more fitting for just sort of the way I like to conduct my day to day.
Mm. And you said that you worked in different kind of clubs before. What makes the Conduit different? What makes it unique?
Good question. So the conduit, as you will know, but some of the listeners might not, is all about impact. So the
Mm.
conduit exists to bring people together. We're a convening spot for, some of the world's biggest change makers. So all of our members are doing amazing things in amazing spaces, and the conduit exists to create a space where they can meet one another, ideally with the view to accelerate some of the problems, some of the solutions to the problems that they are solving. So every day is super exciting. I think other clubs, as brilliant as they are, there's generally less of an emphasis on impact. They're social spaces, maybe co-working spaces. There's maybe an
Mm.
emphasis on nightlife or health and well-being, all of which are important and all of which the conduit does as well. But we are so underpinned by impact, whether it's the sustainability focus in our restaurant or the programming that we do. And that is what sets us aside and what makes the conduit so special.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the reason also why I joined, because yes, I'm part of the Conduit, I'm part of
Exactly.
the community
Yes.
that you're managing. And what I like is not just the content that the Conduit brings in terms of speakers, in terms of experiences, in terms of events, but also the community itself. That you can feel when you go there that everyone is here for driven by a will to have a positive impact, whether it is for through their job, through their company, or through their charity as well. And
Exactly.
so this is brilliant. This is beautiful, but I'm pretty sure this comes with challenges as well. So, what kind of challenges do you face on a daily basis as a community manager when the um, the values are so strong in terms of impact?
Absolutely. Like you say, the values are, everyone's values are so strong and so important. And I think with that in mind, the stakes are higher, everyone's enthusiasm is greater, the engagement is greater, which is brilliant. It makes my job so easy in so many ways because everyone is so willing. Like the
Mm,
hard work is done, they're in the building, they want to be there, they want to convene, they want to connect, they want to collaborate. But I think the challenge that I face in sort of so many different forms every day is that because those stakes are so high and because a Conduit membership isn't just like a nice to have, it's not really sort of like it's not a sort of supplementary thing. For so many people, for so many of our members, it is the thing. It is, they joined to meet their co-founder, to meet their app developer, to meet someone who's going to help accelerate the solution that they're working on, to learn something new, to whatever it is. And they've made that decision. They haven't made that decision lightly. They've made a big commitment. It's an annual subscription. We hope that people stay on much longer, and more often than not they do. And we have to deliver on a mission to them. We have to we have to recognize each and every member's reason for them joining, which we do, and the importance that holds. And it's tricky. We want to do everything. Everyone sort of has ways that they want their membership to work for them, and we want to do it all, but we can't do it all. So I think that's a bit of a challenge, is with over 2,000 members trying to deliver specifically on our mission, but also really emphasize through our programming what they want to see, or through our community groups or whatever it is. And it is a challenge because as you will know, our membership is so diverse, and the variety of people is huge, and that's what makes it so brilliant. That's what makes it so exciting, and that's what makes it such a success, because you can find almost anyone working in almost anything, which is complete total magic. But I think just the sheer volume of all the problems that our members are working with, it just creates that sort of daily challenge of trying to get it right in so many different aspects for so many different people. But it's exciting, and like, we will always try and find a solution. So if someone wants to produce an event on a specific day about a specific thing, and if we can't host it, because obviously we're a physical building, there are constraints that come with that. We're such a solutions focused business. So even, me and my team, we will find a solution, whether that is dovetailing onto another event or ongoing, or if we can't quite execute a new community group for whatever reason, how can we engage with the existing community group? So there's always solutions there, but it's, working with such a vast array of members to try and get it right for them.
It sounds like it's really ingrained in the culture of the team of the Conduit. So how that solution-focused culture has been nurtured at the Conduit?
Yeah, I mean, so we have our programming, which features sort of around 200, maybe more events a year. And we have such a brilliant lineup of speakers and panelists. And the idea is that they will speak about a problem and they will identify a problem, but the majority of that talk, conversation, panel, whatever it is, workshop even, has to be on the solution. So it can't be all doom and gloom. It has to be positive and inspiring, and we have to inspire the audience and inspire our members to feel solution focused and solution driven, because otherwise you might attend an event and you leave and you just feel like, oh, it's impossible and nothing can be done here, and the world is looking so grim. And it's, yeah, like you say, the solutions are so ingrained in our culture, from the way that we try and encourage our members to think and feel, but also the way that we treat our members and each other within the company as well.
Yeah, this is what I meant as well. I guess that the team, that the actual team,
yeah
solution oriented as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be, because we do so much, and we do so much so willingly and so deliberately. But we have cultural events which are a little bit more fun and sort of social orientated, but then we also have obviously all of our community events and impact events, and trying to find the right space for the right people on the same day. And take London Climate Action Week, for example. It's fast approaching within the next couple of weeks, and there's so much going on, so we have to be flexible and we have to be kind to one another to sort of find the right spaces so that we can do as much as we possibly can for the benefit of our members.
And I guess that you put into places some tactics and strategies for this as well. And I noticed
Yeah.
as a member that, and I think it's quite inspiring, because I think every organization needs this kind of culture as well, the culture of feedback. And I
Yes.
noticed each time there's something happening, whether it is an event or once a year or twice a year, a very deep, you ask for details, specific feedbacks to involve and to improve, and then
Yeah.
take into account those feedbacks, not just get the feedbacks and then, okay, well, we hear you. No, you actually try to put into place as well what you've been told as well. And I think that's quite inspiring. So how does that work? I would like to know the behind the scene of the feedback culture of the Conduit.
Yeah, of course. So I'm glad you asked, actually. It's recently come to be my favorite part of my role, which is our biannual survey. So twice a year, we will put out a survey to our members, gathering feedback, thoughts, opinions on all areas of the club. So from the customer service to the food and beverage, to the programming, to the community, to the culture. And so we gather all that feedback. I review it. I read every single word, every single comment. We then host a feedback session as well, where members are invited to come along and we work with them to develop a bit of an action plan as a solution to some of the sort of insights that we've
So
recognized.
yeah, I'm really curious about this. How does that work? So you ask some people some feedbacks, and then you gather them around, that the people will answer, and then how does that
Yeah, of course.
brainstorming session works?
Yeah. So I'll take it back a step. So we obviously identify all the positive things, which, there are loads of them. And then we also focus on the things that we aren't seeing so much progress in. So obviously we compare to previous surveys, previous years, and we see where we're developing in the right direction. We recognize where there is a bit of work to be done. So to give you a couple of examples, some of the things that we pulled out of the most recent survey that was sort of we were seeing a bit of a repetition with was things like awareness of what is going on in the building. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, we do so much, but that is no good if our members aren't knowing about it. How are we going to ensure that our members are feeling value for money if they don't know that we have 200 programs going on? Obviously, they know we have programming going on, but we need them to know just how much we have and when it's happening and where it's happening and who the speakers are or who the panelist is. So that was something we identified. And so we will identify 3, 4, maybe 5 areas of sort of insight. I will, with the help of our COO, talk through those areas to the room of people who have decided to be there voluntary. It's their club. It's the people who want to give back. They want to be part of the problem solving. They want their voice to be heard. So chances are they've filled out the survey already, but we're going one step further. We're inviting anyone who wants to attend to an actual in real life brainstorming session where we will highlight those insights and say, look, help us help you. How can we improve? What area are you struggling with? And I think in response to some of what I mentioned earlier about the lack of awareness of all the things we have going on, there's a lot of conversations around the app that we use and how people might find that a little bit more user friendly. So it's a really good opportunity for me to, in addition to all the survey feedback from all the people who we had respond, have a bit more of a tangible conversation and really focus in on a few things that we recognize are areas for improvement. So that happened last Wednesday, and I then have the sort of privilege of going away and working with other heads of departments to identify what can be done, how we can enhance awareness, or how, small changes as well, but we take them all very seriously. And then another thing, just to sort of add to that, is that you might be interested to know about actually is the timing of our events. So for those members who are aware of our programming, they are telling us that they often can't make it. If it's in the evening, they might have children, they might have evening commitments or whatever that might be. So we have started doing some more programming during the day, but we are going to look to do even more of that. For example, so I had a brilliant conversation with our head of programming to sort of identify how many more events we can do during the day, and we go through that sort of brilliant process of problem solving, and then it's just a case of communicating that. I do, in fact, get in touch with every member who responded to the survey, who has allowed me to do so. We give them the option: do you want to be contacted, don't you? And I will make sure that every member will be contacted, and I will say, you know, I'll respond more specifically to their feedback, which is time consuming, but so worthwhile. And it's a really good opportunity to build those relationships and ensure that our members feel like their voice is being heard.
That's super interesting, because he shows that you're really willing to be vulnerable in the situation, because sometimes feedbacks are quite uncomfortable to get, and being challenged, and also that requires some courage as well. And I think that's also a sign of leadership. Is not just, oh, I have the answer and this is my way. Is really like, okay, let's build it together, and I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to improve. And I think it's quite inspiring in that way. I really like this kind of way of learning and co-building as well.
Absolutely. And I think members clubs are such a good example of that, because it's such a sort of value exchange. We're not just offering a product or a service. What we are, of course we are, we're offering a service, but it's our members club. You know, it's your club. It's like I was saying earlier, you've not made the decision lightly to join. It's such a commitment, and we need to work with each and every member, or, you know, those who are willing to share, to improve and enhance. And they're always such valuable conversations. And yeah, I've definitely learned to let the walls come down and not take anything personally, and actually see it as a real luxury to have that feedback, because then you just have it to work with. It's not a guessing game. You're not throwing something out there and seeing if it sticks. You just have to respond to what you're hearing. And I think actually that makes it much easier to evolve and to progress in the right direction. You know, sometimes it is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's even 2 steps backwards, 1 step forward. But it's, you know, it's motion, and it's change, and it's positive change. So it's always such an enjoyable experience once you learn that it's not personal.
Yes, and also I think it shows also how people are engaged, because it's not easy to get feedbacks. It's great to have a feedback culture, but if people don't really care or they're not engaged, you won't get feedback. And I think that if you get that amount of feedback, and especially motivate people to come and talk about it, it shows that you have a high level of engagement. And you gave a great example of how you build relationship and you improve engagement by engaging with people who answered personally and make it personal. And I think that's great. Do you have other strategies or the best practices that you put into place to increase and also to measure the level of engagement at the Conduit?
Absolutely. So for me, and well, for so many of us here, but definitely for myself, it's all about a very personal and bespoke approach. No membership journey is the same. No one member has joined for the exact same reason as another member. So to definitely have that sort of bespoke, almost sort of concierge feel, especially in the early stages of a member joining, sort of a bit of hand holding, some introductions, sort of, you know, making them feel very sort of warm and nurtured, and then obviously giving them all the tools to ensure that they can make their membership best work for them once that sort of process has finished. And then in terms of, you know, ensuring loyalty and ensuring our members feel enough value for money and ensure that they're experiencing everything that they wanted to, it's checking in. I'm always ensuring that the members who I would usually see quite often and I stop seeing, I perhaps expected to see them on certain days, and that's no longer the case. Like, I'll definitely check in and say, look, you know, we haven't seen you in a while, there's this event coming up that I know you'd love, or we've just had this new member join who I would love to introduce you to, and make sure that they feel that sort of continued guidance and continued support, even sort of 1, 2, 3, 5 years into their membership. So I think for me, that's really key. In terms of sort of measuring that engagement, it is, for us, it's all about retention. It's having members feel that, of course they're going to renew their membership. It's a no-brainer. Like, how could they possibly go on without the Conduit? Like, that is the amount of value that we wish to bring each and every one of our members. Also, a big thing that I work on, which I love, is referrals. So do we have a happy, healthy, engaged community enough so that they want to tell their friends, family, colleagues about us? And then I guess what is so important about that is that then our community is evolving for all the right reasons. It's like, imagine you go to a dinner party, you could be sat around a table with strangers, which would be brilliant, and definitely of value, but you could also be sat around a table with friends of friends. And already there is just that sort of assumption that there's going to be things in common, or there's going to be similar ways of thinking. There's going to be dispute, debate, challenges as well. But again, there will likely be common threads that just make that environment feel a little bit warmer, a bit friendlier, a bit more comfortable. So that's key.
And interesting, because do you think, actually, this is my my experience, I don't know if it's every member's experience, but when I joined the Conduit, I was also doing it to go out of my comfort zone, try to talk with different people, challenge my mindset, challenge my views. And I think in a way, from indirectly, it also kind of improved or helped me improve my leadership skills, my listening skills, my open-mindedness, and also my communication skills, or my confidence as well in terms of talking to strangers. Is that also something that you observe, that when you join a community like this, and you would improve those skills as well?
Absolutely. So as you'll know, but as some listeners might not, we have 14 community groups here at the Conduit, which are all based around or sort of reflect our members' interests. So we've got tech, education, sustainable fashion, impact investing, that whole spectrum of sort of industries or realms. And it's so lovely because each of those are championed by a sort of expert in that field. So you have these members, they'll be a champion for the duration of a year, and then we'll change champion just to keep things moving, and to keep things dynamic. So you'll have these individuals who will be leaders of their own community groups, but then you will also see them in the audience of a talk or a workshop or whatever it might be, of a theme that they are interested in, but they are not the expert in that realm or in that field. And to sort of see them both be a leader, but also to listen to other leaders and engage with those other leaders. Like it's you see like a whole spectrum of people becoming leaders, but also people learning from other leaders. And those opportunities are sort of, are all over the place at the Conduit.
And talking about leaderships and people growing through their leadership skills, let's talk a bit more about you and not so much about the Conduit per se. Do you have a memorable leadership moment that was really challenging for you, and how did you go through it?
I think the challenge that I find, it's similar to what I was speaking about a little bit earlier, was just that learning that you do have to say no sometimes. Because when I first joined, and that was back in September of last year, and I was, which of course I still am, but I was enthusiastic and I was engaged and I really wanted to make a good impression. So I was saying, yes, we'll do that event. Yes, we'll launch that community group. And I think actually to recognize that it's not always the right timing to do that, or we maybe cannot deliver on that in the right way, or in a way that we in a way that it deserves, if we overpromise. There's a risk of overpromising and under-delivering, right? And also, like, I've got to be, as a leader more internally, I've got to be mindful of the team's time. And for example, Beth, you'll know Beth, Conduit members will know and love Beth. She's like me. We're so eager and willing to do everything we can for every single one of our members, but we simply might not have enough hours in the day, or it might not be in keeping with what our key focuses are for that quarter, or whatever the KPI or the deliverable might be. And I think that learning the power of no, and that wasn't always the wrong thing for the member. That was maybe in most cases the right thing for the member based on the timing or whatever else we have going on. I think that has been a challenge that I face time and time again. Hence, I mentioned it earlier, and I'm revisiting that with you now. But again, bringing us back to that solution, there will always be one. And actually, more often than not, in my experience, it's worked out for the better. So it's indeed been a challenge to realize that you cannot please everybody all the time, so long as you are doing your best and so long as you come with a solution and it's positive and it's excited, which I try and tend to be in all my communications, then it'll be okay. But it was definitely my biggest challenge that I faced in the recent months.
It reminds me of that conversation I had with Bob Berg, who is an American author in business, and he has a technique of how to say no without really saying no. Because sometimes, yes, when you say no, the person can kind of feel like rejected, and you don't want that, especially if you're a kind person. And he said the first thing to say is not no, but okay, keep the door open at that moment, whether it is to thank the person for thinking of me, or yes, I will think about it, and then say no, but not just say no. Finally, or giving an opening, whether it is a new time frame or another person, another option. Is that something that you feel like you're doing as well? How do you say no in a solution-oriented way?
Totally. So, I mean, yeah, exactly that. And I think also it's what I've grown to realize is our members just really value transparency. Like, don't disguise it in anything else. Don't sort of pretend it's a yes, but actually it's a no, and deal with the complicated conversation later. Just explain why. And we've got our programming, we've got our solutions agenda, which the non-Conduit members, please do jump on our website and take a look. It's sort of the areas of exploration that's guiding so much of our programming this year. So we can always, for the right reasons, we can lean on that. We can say, look, that's really in keeping with our health conference that's coming up in this instance, it's coming up actually this month. But had someone asked me about something that would have worked really nicely with that timing in mind earlier on in the year, I could have said, look, it's not something we can explore right now, but later on in June, this will become wildly relevant and we should look to do it then. And, so long as you actually can deliver on that, then that's not a no, it's just like a no for now. And it took me a while to get comfortable with it. But like I said, it's never had a bad outcome. It just might have had a different outcome. And again, it's so collaborative. So even if you were to have that honest conversation with the member and say, we just cannot find a time or a place for this, is there a way that we could reformat it? Or if we weren't to offer, your fellow members this deliverable, how else could this look? And really shape something really exciting and unique, so that it's not no, it's just different. And it's become a really enjoyable and valuable experience. We, like on leadership, just to give you an example of that, we had two members, Kate and John, who came to me and said, we would love to start a community group about leadership. And it sounded brilliant, and I'm sure you would love that as well. But we didn't have the capacity to start a whole new group that would obviously require engaging at least a minimum of sort of 40, 50 members in a short space of time. So instead, we suggested that we did like a one-off event, and we would then take the format and the template of that event, which was brilliant, by the way, and apply it to the existing community groups that we do have. So it's, it's always exciting, it's always interesting, and it always works out in the end.
Brilliant. Well, that's a very, very insightful conversation. I would love to continue a bit more, but I'd like to keep it short and concise in 30 minutes. And I think there's lots of things that we can work on into this episode. I would like to conclude on your last advice. If you can share a message to a person that would want to be to start as a community manager as well, what would be your best advice for this person?
I have one simple answer, and there's like nothing else I could say here because it's so clear to me. My advice is just to be incredibly process driven. So just to give a little bit, and I know we're short on time, but just give a little bit of background there. When I joined, and obviously the role was so client facing and so sort of based on human interactions, I sort of forgot about the requirement to sort of like protect my time and to create processes, because you have all these brilliant, inspiring, stimulating conversations with members, and without a process to back that up, they can often amount to nothing. So without a workflow, without an SOP, without something a bit more concrete to ensure that those conversations don't drop off, or that thing you discussed actually can be facilitated in some way, I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in the human warmth side of things that you actually might forget to ensure that there is a process to back that up. Does that sort of make sense?
Yes, it does make
Because
sense.
I feel so strongly about that, and it's what I've learned over the last few months. So I think I'm really eager for anyone listening to really sort of understand that and sort of reflect that in their own processes.
It does make sense, because sometimes people would think that processes make things mechanical and lose the authenticity or the human
Yes.
part of interaction. But actually, that's not really the case, because you created a frame, and within that frame, you have freedom. But without the frame, it's chaos.
Perfectly said. And thank you so much for summarizing it so well. I felt so strongly about it. I was worried I hadn't quite communicated it well. But yes, exactly that. And I think the community management of the community at a members club is so in person, and it's so being present in the moment. And I think, like you say, without that sort of like constraint or that confinement, so much can just sort of disappear. So you need, whether it's a form or a workflow or an expectation, like whatever that looks like, just have those things in place. They can evolve, they can be refined, they can change, but there just needs to be something, like you say, something to sort of frame it so that it can indeed materialize. The amount of conversations that I've had, and then sort of nothing happens, or there's not actually a place for it because we haven't created a place for it, or there isn't a form where we can get all the relevant information that will actually ensure that this materializes. Those were very vague examples, but hopefully that sort of makes sense. But yeah, very, very, very key. It's just mixing the human interaction with, like you say, the more sort of mechanical element to just sort of create that sort of final complete whole.
Brilliant. I think that's a great advice to finish this interview. So thank you so much, Ella, for this great conversation and sharing your story, sharing the behind the scene as well. And so for the people who want to know more about the Conduit, I will also put the link into the description of the video. And for the people who want to, if you enjoyed this episode, you can also have many more episodes on Secrets of Leaders, the podcast, which is also available on Spotify. Thank you very much, Ella, and talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.